One Love Lottery is a new exciting weekly lottery established to help raise funds for our young people aged 17 to 25 and to generate community wealth in the UK. By playing One Love Lottery for just £1 per ticket, you also stand a chance of winning some amazing prizes, including our jackpot of £25,000 each week. Tickets are available from onelovelottery.co.uk or call 0208 183 1832 for more information. Draws are made every Saturday and you can play as many times as you like. Players must be 16 or over and reside in the UK. Please support One Love Lottery today. United we stand, divided we fall. One love.
£25,000. The Community Lottery, a subscription-based lottery that allows you to continue to support good causes that matter. When you win, good causes win. Every month, eligible good causes have the opportunity to win a share of funds that could help them continue the good work that they do in our communities. To apply, there's no complicated forms, nor do you have to be a registered charity. Just grab your phone, send us a 60-second video explaining your good cause and the difference having extra funding would make to your project. Visit thecommunitylottery.com. Hit the play button and sign up for either 13 weekly draws or by direct debit for just £4.35 that gives you 4 weekly draws. You could have the chance of winning £25,000. The aim of the Community Lottery is to create an additional source of funding that will enable good causes to undertake innovative projects that matter. If you're in, the communities win.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to another edition of What a Week right here on MediaNet Live TV with, of course, myself, Mr. C, and my co-host, the fantastic Mr. Tony Crossbody, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, good evening, Mr. C. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. So, first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have been watching week in and week out, please continue to like, subscribe, and to share. And most importantly, please join into the conversation. Your comments and views are well valid. So, Tony, how you been, my brother?
I'm all right, Mr. C. And you know what? It's almost a year since What a Week has been on the air.
Boy, doesn't time fly when you're in lockdown? As the new saying will be. Oh my days, a year already.
Year. Yeah,
so
a year already. I believe it's the 30th of March. The end of March is going to be 1 year that What a Week has been on the air.
So listen, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, we have to give thanks to the Almighty. But secondly, we have to give thanks to you, our audience, who've kept us going throughout these last 52 weeks. I can't believe it's a year already, Tony. It's flown by.
A year, and we've only had 1 week off.
What? That was the first week of the year.
Of the year, yeah.
So look at that, ladies and gentlemen. 1 week off. We've been here continuously entertaining you, bringing you news and views with a little bit of an Afro-Caribbean centric point of view. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope that you'll continue to support us, because who knows where the future will take us with this show. But in the meantime, we want to say thank you to all of our loyal fans, the people who have given us comments, those who have been giving us feedback. We thank you. Danke from the bottom of my hearts, and Tony's hearts too. If you're not too sure what our hearts is, then, you know.
I think Mr. C, we should do something special at the end of the month. I think we can't let that pass by, without celebrating it. We've been here 12 months. There used to be 3 of us. There's now 2 of us, and we've gone through, so many different topics and subjects. It'd be nice if we can perhaps take some time to celebrate, to look back, and to celebrate the triumph of having our own platform and sharing our views, and also to share the history that we have.
Well, I totally concur this, sir. I think that's a marvelous idea, and I think so it be said, so it be done. I think what we should do is add a little something special on top, though, because like our viewers, they're like part of the family, Tony.
True.
I think possibly we might be able to bring 1 or possibly 2 of our viewers on for our 1 year anniversary. What do you think about that, Tony?
You know what? Why don't we let them take the show, and we be the guests?
You know what? Fantastic idea. I'm all up for it, because we always say every week, it's not just our platform, it's your platform. So why don't we?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that indeed? So, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Crossbody has spoken. I've given him the nod and in agreement. We're not even going to ask management. That's how bold and bad we be. We're not even going to put it to no discussion with management. So, ladies and gentlemen, for our anniversary show, 1 or 2 or a few of you lucky viewers who've been supporting us over the last 52 weeks will be the stars of the show, and me and Tony Crossbody, we will be your guests, as you've been our guests for so many weeks, so many months, and it's just our way of saying thank you, and we appreciate you, and most importantly, we want to elevate our people wherever they are and wherever they're watching from. So, good evening to everybody. Karen James, good evening. She says, Mr. C and Tony, salute to you too, my queen. And Marie Attil, good evening to you. And Tegan Allison says, "Ahoy, you're ready for us to take over? Chat room crew, we're ready for them, yeah?"
No, Alison. Don't have Alison there.
No. She's yeah. It'd be good to see if she can back her chat, Tony, or if she comes on, she'll be like, "Hello, everybody. My name is Alison. I don't speak too much." If she quiet like puss.
Mr. C, do you think that we should invite our viewers to contact us personally if they want to come on for that particular anniversary show? So let's have 2 of our loyal viewers on the show. They can host it and decide the topics of discussion, and we'll just come in as guests, and and we'll have some prizes. Shall we do some prizes?
Oh, why not? Definitely, and let's have some prizes. I mean, Tony, we can't just invite them onto our platform, expect them to run our show, and we don't give them something back.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely some prizes for them.
Maybe something like I don't know, a raffle or some kind of thing for the viewers. So we have the guests, right? Let them come on, give them some prize, but then we have a raffle for our viewers, right? Where they can purchase raffle tickets, and then we'll have a nice prize for the winner.
You know what? I like you. I like the way you think, my man. That sounds like a succinct plan. Yeah.
So let's do that. So loyal viewers, if you fancy joining us for our celebration, is it the 30th that week? Oh, I don't know what that Tuesday is going to be, but the last week of March. If you fancy coming on the show to be a host, let us know. Let Mr. C know, or let me know. And if we get more than 2 names, we'll pull two names out the hat, invite you on the show. You'll present the show. We'll give you a prize if you've done well. And then we'll have a raffle for our viewers.
So that's Tuesday, the 30th of March. It will be a year celebration of what a week. And what a show that's going to be. So 2 of our loyal viewers will be able to take over the show. You'll be able to pose your own questions, what you've seen over the week, or even over the year, if possible. And me and Tony will be there to be your guests. So this will become your platform, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, listen, man, that's a big prize, you know.
Yeah. So they get to take the show. Right, they get prize. We do a raffle. The viewers get prizes, right? And then because of course we can't tell the viewers our plans, but obviously we're looking to expand and get to bigger things and bigger platforms, and trying to get more viewers and things like that. So we've got plans to kind of move the show into another gear. Why don't we end this first year with celebrating it with our viewers? I think that would be a great idea.
Wonderful. And you know what, Tony, our ambitions are big, ladies and gentlemen. But Tony, it doesn't seem that our ambitions, what we have for this show, are as big as Lynn Spencer's ambitions as regards to what the prize is going to be for the raffle, because she's saying a trip to the Caribbean. Well, if that's what you're expecting, Lynn, all I'm gonna need to draw your partner hand early, and buy out the whole other lottery tickets 15 times them over. Trip to the Caribbean.
Oh boy. You got to buy our viewers. They're very ambitious.
Listen, man, they give us joke, man. Carolyn is saying free tickets to Jamaica. Lynn is saying she's getting. Lynn is getting feedback. It must be on your own thing, Lynn. If you're getting feedback.
So Carolyn says, "What an amazing idea! About time you realize you need women on there." No, it's not. No, Carolyn, no, it's not because you're our loyal viewers. We want you on for one time and one time only.
Yeah. So Carolyn, we don't business whether you're a woman, whether you're a man. In fact,
let's get a man, one woman. Even that.
There you go. You see what you did now, Carolyn? It could have been you and your friend, but now you're gonna have to not shave your mustache this week and pretend you're a man next on the 30th. You see, you did that to yourself, Carolyn. You did.
Great idea, Carolyn. Why did I figure that before? A man together.
Yeah. Charmaine Bradshaw says that this opportunity is better than Opportunity Knocks. Are you aware of that program, Tony? Opportunity Knocks.
Well before my time, I'm afraid.
Well before my time. I remember my dad reminiscing about it, but I think definitely before mine and Tony's time.
Yeah. I heard my uncle talk about that show.
Yeah.
Who used to host that show? Who used to host
Opportunity Knocks? It would have been. I'm thinking Bob Monkhouse for some strange reason, but probably not. Opportunity Knocks. Wow. I know somebody. I think somebody used to put their finger in their mouth and pop their mouth and something, but no idea who was the host of that. Was it Moses?
No. I got his. Look at the old timer behind the scenes. Look, he's telling us. Look, Huey Green, who allegedly is the father of
he is the father of one of those famous singers, wasn't he? One of those famous pop singers, and she didn't find out until after he died.
Right.
Wow, boy, imagine that.
Yeah.
All
Do you
them years.
remember, there was another show that it called The Golden Shot.
The Golden Shot. I remember old people talking about it as well. Yes.
Yeah. My uncle said he watched that show.
Up a bit, down a bit, left a bit,
left a bit, right a bit.
Yeah. The golden arrow with listen, mate. Could you imagine if they had a program like
Paula Yates? It was Paula Yates.
Yates. Well done, Anne-Marie. Listen, man. If we ever do a quiz, I want Anne-Marie on my quiz team, man. Well done.
Charmaine Bradshaw decides to copy Anne's answer, so we know what you used to do at school, Charmaine.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie said Paula Yates. Charmaine says Paula Yates. Look.
Yeah. But Jackie Pearson and Viv Rose Gold. Yeah, we want you on our quiz team, man. You people got that kind of, what they call it, Tony, that you know when you that quick mind, that quick mind.
I thought I was gonna say Parkinson's when you did that, but no.
Easy on them now. Easy on them, man.
Who did the Golden Shot? Who's the guy that did the Golden Shot?
The Golden Shot was. Oh gosh, Parsons? No, not Nicholas Parsons. Nicholas Parsons did something else.
No. He did the other show, innit, where you had all the car and all that.
Oh, let me see. All right, so I know some of you are on Google right now. So there you go. Who else hosted the Golden Shot, please? Yeah, very good. And Tegan Allison says, please do a quiz on our anniversary show.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a quiz.
Well, Allison, if you're one of the lucky ones, then yes, that's what could happen. But it will be entirely down to whoever's presenting the show on the 30th to decide the content of the show. But me and Tony might have one or two little things to add on as well. Bob Monkhouse says Jackie Pearson.
No, Jackie, no. Bob Monkhouse didn't do Golden Shot, bro.
No?
No.
You sure? He did do one of them game shows, though.
No, it's from that era, but it's not him. It's a Lancashire. It's a Lancashire guy.
No, I know who you're talking. No, he did it after somebody. Charlie Williams is who you're talking about.
Charlie Williams.
Me old flower.
Charlie Williams. What show did Bob Monkhouse? What did he do?
I think he did do originally the Golden Shot and then or something afterwards. Oh gosh, come on.
And someone said Sale of the Century. Remember that show? That was what's that guy's name again?
Nicholas Parsons.
Nicholas Parsons, the
Sale of the Century. That's when you could win something. You could win something like a Kenwood mixer.
Yeah.
You mean a Kenwood mixer?
The grand prize was like an Austin Montego. Remember them?
Yes. Yeah. You win the car, man. Wow. No power steering, no electric windows, and everybody had a stereo inside there. A lot of mercy. You put all the 7 kids in the back and not one of them had a seatbelt on. The good old days, mate.
It was a do you actually, I must say, do you remember that there was a time when you did not have to wear a seatbelt?
I remember it very well. Yes. I do remember.
and then they had this whole campaign, clunk click every trip.
Yeah. And I think rightly so, to be honest with you. I've seen the horrors of motor accidents. I've actually seen 2 people pass away from motor accidents, to be honest with you. So one directly outside my house, which was and the trauma of having to the next day when I saw his family at the scene, and again just trying to explain to them that he passed peacefully. It was but again, a seatbelt probably would have saved that young man's life, to be honest with you. But clunk click before every trip. A very good campaign. Very good campaign. I think back then, Tony, a lot of the campaigns were so good that they all had a little memorable theme to it that you kind of catchphrase. That's correct. Yeah. So like the Green Cross Man, oh gosh, what was the Green Cross Man's theme?
Oh, he had the Green Cross Code, didn't he?
That's right, the Green Cross Code.
He had a big X on his chest, he was like a superhero.
Yeah. Look left, look right. I can't remember the rest of it. So it wasn't that memorable for me then. Sorry. I remember the man with the Green Cross though. I remember the Green Cross man. There was times my mum would get the Green Cross man and the Green Giant mix up. So you could imagine what kind of corn we was buying. It wasn't tasty.
Donna Ben says she remembers no seatbelts, smoking on the bus, and train two pence bus ticket. My gosh, marathon bars. Oh,
marathon bars. Wow. You're taking it back, Donna. You're taking it. You're going retro. You're talking about when you bought a Curly Whirly chocolate bar. That was enough to fill you up.
Oh man, Curly Whirly.
Curly Whirly, mate. You know what I'm saying? When was the last time you saw a child with a Curly Whirly in their hand with a smile on their face?
And you know they're still selling them, you know.
Do they?
Mm.
I'm gonna go out and look for one tomorrow.
Every now and then.
I'm gonna go out and look for one tomorrow. The other thing what I've noticed as well, which is, you know, there's certain things what we used to see when we were younger, or when our uncles were younger, Tony, that we don't see anymore. I remember in the 70s, I would see Auntie Gita. I don't know if you guys remember Auntie. You must remember Auntie Gita. No matter how cold it was, Auntie Gita was the one who she had on a traditional sari, and she had the little wrap, and the belly was always out of doors. No matter how cool it was, Auntie Gita. What's ever happened to her? I don't see her no more. It's like Auntie Gita gone now.
Yeah, but you see, what happens is that the newer generations, you know, they're discarding a lot of the traditions, isn't it? So, all you see, I mean, this is what happens in the West. When you come to the West, you come with strong traditions. The first generation hold it strong. The second generation has half of it, and then the youngsters, man, they just discard it altogether. So, you know, that's a sort of sad part about, you know, leaving your traditions behind, is that that uniqueness is gone. You look like everybody else.
True. I mean, there's some real good ones here. Milky Bar Kid, which I never had. My mother wouldn't allow me to have the Milky Bar Kid chocolate.
Why?
She just didn't like the fact that she said the boy looked too funny. Them funny chocolate from that funny boy. Something wrong with him. Him no look right. Milky Bar. Why want Milky Bar? Get chocolate, which is chocolate.
Sharon Spice Gibson, good evening, Sharon. She says mojos and bazookas. Oh man, anything to mash up your teeth.
Bazooka Joe with the little cartoon with the bubble gum. Come on, man. Then what the listen.
And the bazooka used to have a comic strip inside. Do you remember when you used to open it up?
Imagine that you get penny sweet and you get comic as well for the same penny. You can't do that now. Oh my days, man. I don't know where Karen James, listen, any more of that kind of language, Karen James, and you should be removed from the show. We're talking about childhood memories, happy memories, and you got put in wagon wheels. None of my
wagon. Oh man.
None of my friends would have wagon wheels. Yeah. Karen James, she said she had wagon wheels.
Oh, that explains a lot then.
And her profile picture, she looks so young as well.
Wagon wheels. Someone said, Norms, how Norms? Norms Ferguson says treats. What is treats called now?
Oh, M&M's. Yeah. Wow, treats. Of course it was. Yeah. Sharon Spice Gibson says double decker when it had raisins.
Double decker. Okay.
I remember them. Yeah, it was a kind of like a crunchy biscuit with a. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh my days, man.
Carolyn Simmons says Spangles. Remember Spangles?
Well, Carolyn, if you're at the age where you're wearing spangles and everything, then God bless you, darling. God bless you. Most girls that I know in my age bracket, they're still wearing leggings, Carolyn. But if you're wearing spangles, God bless you.
Carolyn, do you remember the advert for spangles? Do you know there was an advert for spangles?
No.
And it had a dinosaur in it.
Spangles, well, they were wicked sweets, man. They were lovely.
Man.
They had a little fizz in the middle, wasn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
Very good choice, Carolyn. I remember Spangles.
Yeah.
Oh my days, man. The other thing as well, what I've noticed as well, Tony, when I was like sitting down, just reminiscing about the good old days, is that I know we live in a changing world, ladies and gentlemen, and probably the views that we had 20 years ago as regards to sexuality has now changed, it has now evolved, and we've taken on a completely different narrative and conversation. However, I remember that when I was growing up, we had a thing called tomboys. Do you remember tomboys?
Yeah, man.
Tony? It was a girl who liked to play football with the guys. She didn't like to wear skirts and everything. She wore like she wore like jeans and everything. And she wasn't fully, she didn't wear dungareens, because if you was wearing dungareens, then we know. We know. You give up pun, man. If you're wearing dungareens, man, them is not your thing. But tomboys, they liked guys, but they weren't like. It's like now there's no such thing as tomboys. You don't see tomboys again.
No.
It's like what happened? What happened to Auntie Gita and tomboys? That's what I'd like to know.
I think tomboys are turning into tom girls, isn't it? The boys are playing with the girly things, man.
Why? Different times. Different times.
What is the old name for Snickers?
Snickers was marathon. We just said marathon. Yeah, marathon. Yeah. Donna Ben is saying the sweetie necklace. Oh gosh, that's when you're. Yeah, man. It was on a little kind of elastic.
Yeah.
And you give that to the girl, and then afterwards you try and bite it when it was on her neck, and if you was a little bit crafty and sneaky, like somebody I know very well, you try and get a little, on the neck, a little, yeah, they're on the sweet. Yes, man.
Karen James says marathon. Yes, that's right, marathon. Carolyn said I was a tomboy, got 4 brothers, and that's what tends to happen, isn't it? When you got
there, you go.
When you're a girl amongst brothers like that, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Your brother's gonna take you to play football, jump over fence, climb wall, jump down.
No, big up yourself. All right, so now Sharon Spice Gibson's really gone retro. She says, does anyone remember the chocolate biscuit that was wrapped in purple foil that you would be given at school with your small glass bottle of milk? Or was that just a Birmingham thing?
Sharon, man. I used to rob other schoolboys from their chocolate. We used to sell that in the tuck shop, though. We used to get that in the tuck shop.
What chocolate was that then?
It's like wrapped in a foil. It could be a silver foil. We had a purple foil, that thick chocolate biscuit. Sharon says you used to get that with milk. Mrs. do you remember getting milk in school? Milk in a carton?
Come on, listen. Our school was probably too poor to afford chocolate biscuits with milk. So when I must have went to some posh school, we only had milk.
That's what we had. We had milk.
Wow.
And I used to have a lactose intolerant friend.
And he used to give you.
Yeah, he said, I don't want no. I tell me you want milk. So that's so we get strong bones and teeth for.
Listen, man, the good old days, man. The good old days. No helmets when riding bicycle. No elbow pads or knee pads.
No.
You learn
on the job.
The latchkey kids generation. We were young, free, ambitious, and children full of adventure. Oh man. So look, Tony, in the news recently, of course, yesterday, we had Oprah meets Meghan and Harry. We saw a little bit of a build up towards it. there was a clip released. There was a little statement in one of the clips, which was like, oh, moment. Did you manage to watch it last night, Tony, first and foremost?
Well, you know me, Mr. C. I'm not really much of a avid, but I knew we were going to have this discussion. So I sat down and tuned in to the show.
And your thoughts, sir?
Well, I've got a number of things that stuck out to me. I mean, actually, quite a few points. I actually made a note of it because actually the interview was very interesting, but not for what was said.
Yes. That's one of the things what I love about you, Tony. You have a very special way of not just being fed the narrative, but also reading in between the lines. So I'm curious to see some of your discoveries, sir. But viewers, did you watch Oprah last night with Meghan and Harry? What did you think? What was your thoughts? What was your concerns? Obviously, there were some massive headlines earlier on this morning, and of course, we had that moment on GMTV, which we will talk about later on. But first and foremost, what was your views when you watched the Meghan and Harry interview, being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey last night? What was your thoughts and views? So, Tony, where do we start?
Well, let me just say good evening to Anthony Lowe. Anthony says Starburst, originally known as Oprah Fruits. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Big up, Anthony.
Absolutely right. Yes.
Oprah Fruits made to make your mouth water.
I heard they got something like 7 million or something like that, some ridiculous money for that interview.
Meghan and Harry.
It wasn't free.
Well, hold on. I'm sure that in the interview, they actually, the very first thing which Meghan said was that they wasn't being paid for it.
Well, okay.
Which I found a little bit alarming, but interesting.
Let's ask our viewers. Can you just do a quick Google search, please, and find out if Meghan and Harry got paid for that interview? Because I'm quite sure I saw a report on CBS saying it was somewhere around 7 million that they paid for that they were paid for that interview. So if anybody gets a chance to just Google that, please, and confirm or not, we'll find out, Mr. C. We'll have it confirmed. But yeah, so big interview, big reveals.
Well, it could possibly be. I mean, obviously, that interview was done many months ago. Right. And it could be possibly that since then a deal has now been struck where there's been some kind of payment, which has released some kind of payment clause, possibly because of the popularity of the actual interview. I'm not sure, but we will look into that. But I find it a little bit alarming if Meghan is saying that they're not being paid for it, if Oprah is actually not instigating, she's actually saying that, and let's be clear, you're not being paid for this. And then 7 million, it's not like it's not like it's £700, mate. It's 7 million is good change.
And then I'm willing to be corrected if it's wrong. But I did hear that on the national news source that's what that was. But again, who knows? Who knows what to believe?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to be careful of, especially when it comes to Meghan and Harry, is that if we're going to be sympathetic to what she's actually saying and what Harry is actually saying, we can see, based on, obviously there's two sides to a story, based on what they're saying, is that there's been a lot of information thrown out there with regards to Meghan, which is totally untrue. So this whole 7 million could again be another smokescreen, very much like what she was saying when in the interview she was saying that the whole news headline when Kate was supposed to be crying, and it was in fact Meghan who was the actual victim of of their particular incident.
Phil makes a comment and says, yes, they got paid between 5 to 6.5 million to air the interview. So I know everybody else is saying no payment, but I'm sure Oprah didn't pay them, but to air the interview, to have that syndicated so people could watch it.
Right. Okay.
So I'm saying this. Maybe Oprah didn't necessarily pay them but to air that show, to go worldwide, I find it hard to believe it was done for free.
Yeah. Okay, well, we cleared it up. Charmaine Bradshaw, top of the class, darling. Charlene Bradshaw says they may get royalties.
need to get Charmaine on the show to host the show. She's
fantastic, Shams. Absolutely. So where do we start with this, Tony?
Well, let's start at the talking point that kind of made that the royal family were concerned about what color the child was going to be. This to me is most peculiar. You know, you have a royal family that knows its history. We on What a Week know that history. Right? We also know that you're going to marry a woman of color, but when the child is pregnant, you're concerned about what color the child is going to be.
I think, again, Tony, just to clarify, I think that conversation was had well before Meghan was actually pregnant. I think that conversation came about in the early days of the relationship, where when Harry was expressing how serious the relationship was, that question probably came up as regards to, you know, what color would the child be, or would the children be? Possibly. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
But even if that's the case, you know that this man, your son, is going to marry this lady, so they're going to have children. So why the concern then? Surely it should be, well, look, we're concerned that this child is going to be a certain color. Harry, we do not want you to marry her.
Well,
so why is the concern? You're dating her. It's obviously going to get married, but we have a concern what color this child's going to. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, yes, I think it does make sense, depending on who's asking that question, because if that wasn't a concern for that particular organization, because I don't want to say family, because again, they kept it quite secret as regards to who the identity of the actual person was. And remember, this is one person who's asked this question. I'm glad that they said it wasn't the Queen, because I in my heart of heart, I didn't believe it was the Queen who would ask such a question. Again, I was equally surprised that when they said it wasn't the Duke either, being Prince Philip, because I was going to bet my house, my car, my baby mother, everything I got that it was Prince Philip. I was convinced it was the. However, it's not the Duke. But again, I think that we shouldn't be surprised by that, because if we think back to like what Harry's saying with his mother, when she was dating Dodie, and remember that his mother died. I don't want to use the term murdered, because we all know Diana was murdered, allegedly. However, we all know that she was allegedly pregnant with Dodie's child. And again, these are some of the things which was coming up in the conspiracy stories as regards to the concern of the color of the child being the brother of Prince Harry and Prince William. So that concern is a concern which has come all the way back from Princess Diana's pregnancy with Dodie. So I wouldn't be surprised by that comment in that particular fraternity.
I think they said that that there's a they called it. I think they called it the firm. They said that it was not necessarily the individual members of the family itself, but the firm behind them, the sort of the business corporate side of the royal family that sort of aired these concerns. But again, knowing their history as they do, and the black DNA that runs through the royal family, I can't make heads or tails of why such a comment would be even aired.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think this is the point of privilege, isn't it? When you're in a firm like that, there is many a thing said what never ever sees the light of day, Tony. And because Harry has now broken royal protocol and he's decided to talk the things, because he's getting a little bit of flavor up in his cooking, in his loving. He's getting a little bit of flavor and spice. All of a sudden, he can jump out of that restriction and that stiff upper lip and oh no, we don't discuss, we don't show emotions, we don't talk things outside of the firm. He's now talking the thing. So conversations which would never ever in hundreds and thousands of years ever be privy to the public are now being privy to the public, such as like what his mother did as well.
You see, this is why Donna is my friend, you know, because me and Donna, we're on the same frequency. Donna says, Tony, I was saying the same thing. Not the first black baby in the royal families.
Yeah, yes, well, of course, and we know this. However, what we've got to understand is that the reasons why the general population don't know this is the power of the firm. Because what you've got to look at is that the royal family and those people, the advisors, we've seen it throughout the whole of history, that all kings and queens, all royal members have advisors. We've seen it with politicians. They've always got advisors. They're almost like, some of them are like Blackadder. It's the only way I could describe them. They're usually little Weasley looking kind of people who through position and association they've managed to make themselves very influential. So if you look at the royal family as a whole, it's a big business. It generates millions and millions of pounds per year, and you've got people who are advising the royal family as regards to the movement of that money and the generation of that money, and how to massage people's perceptions of the royal family. And I think they are the ones who have definitely probably released a lot of the statements which are not true about Meghan, because they're the ones, the type of people who have been whitewashing history for hundreds and thousands of years. These are the same set of people, I would probably guess.
Yeah, I mean, who's gonna, how are we gonna really gonna know? I just struggle. There's obviously some logic behind that. You know, knowing what they do, they know more than us about their lineage, and then to come up with a statement like that, which actually makes no sense. I mean, it's easy to say, well, yeah, they're racist, but they know their history. They know the Queen is related to Queen Victoria. We know she's related to. Oh my goodness, my
Charlotte.
Charlotte, thank you very much. Queen Charlotte. We know Queen Victoria has a daughter, Princess Victoria. We've seen all the pictures. So why would they now decide, well, they're concerned about how this youngster will look? It's very, very strange. If you were concerned in the first place, then be concerned that you were going to marry a woman of color. Then we have a problem with that. Then you stop that issue right away.
Well, this is the thing, you see, that Prince Harry is very much a child of his mother. He has his own mind. He will do his own thing. And plus, he's not next in line to the throne. So that gives him permission to do whatever he wants. You know, we've seen it before. We've seen it with, as we've said, with Princess Margaret. She was not going to be a successor to the throne. Her sister, Elizabeth, was. So that gave Margaret absolute free license to go and do what she wanted, and she did the whole of the Caribbean and the whole of Ladbroke Grove. So they weren't happy about it, but back then they could keep a lot of it stum, and which they did. They kept a hell of a lot of it stum. Like, you know, people did. If I know that Prince Margaret was giving out royal, let's say Pajani, I might have taken a piece too, and everything, can use that as reparations. I said it.
You got 6 as a Euro, Mississippi. But how about this? You know what surprised me? That Harry said that they were cut off from royal allowances and they're living off the money that he got from the Spencer estate.
Yes, his mum. Yeah. Very, 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 very telling. Very, very damaging for the royal family, to be honest with you. And it's, again, especially for Prince Charles, the fact that, you know, your second-born son, who really and truly, you know, he's a great kid. He's a great lad. A lot of parents would be proud to have a child like Harry, and the fact that, you know, he's now in a love that in a life and a love that's bringing him happiness and joy, and the fact that you would cut him off, it seems really strange and bizarre. But I think one of the reasons, Tony, is because for us as ordinary common folk who live simple lives and have simple constructs such as family, we do not understand the complexities of the royal family. So for us, family means everything. Family is blood, and, you know, through thick and thin, we'll be there for family no matter what. And we expect all families to be the same. However, I think with the royal family, there's one thing which is above and beyond the fact that they are family by blood and family by name. They are bound by duty, which none of us within our family have that bond, or that prescription which says duty before anything else. And when you are a member of the royal family, your life is not yours.
What about I mean, you listen to the interview, I couldn't help noticing how naive Meghan sounded when she said, well, two things that struck me. Firstly, when she was dating Prince Harry, she never Googled him. She never looked him up.
Brother, man.
Right? I mean, which woman meets a man who's not on Facebook and go and look at his profile? But she didn't look up one of the most famous people in the world. And the second thing was
number one.
Yeah, and the second thing was she said that she didn't know what to expect, that she had to be a working royal. I mean, what do you have to say about Mr. C?
I mean, look, I find it very difficult that she did not Google the royal family, or, I mean, we live in a day and age where, you know, YouTube is there. Even the dunce man who lives at the top of my road, who ain't got two halfpennies pence worth of sense, he would have Googled Prince Harry. So I don't understand how you could be going into something like that where you know it's completely different, did not do any kind of research or look up anything about the family or him. I find it really bizarre, to be honest with you. And then again, if she is that type of person, then I suppose that's why she's had problems dealing with the negative press and having to, you know, the moments where she was literally suffering from mental fatigue and exhaustion because you didn't do the things which people with common sense would have done. In my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's just these naive little statements that she said, oh, you know, when Harry said to her, "You're going to meet my grandmother," she was talking about, oh, well, you know, when you meet these lovely old ladies, and when Harry said, yeah, but do you know how to curtsy and all? She was like, she was surprised that, you know, she had to curtsy. I mean, come on, this is the queen, literally, of the world, effectively. I mean, she owns half of it.
Well, yeah. Well, you see, that's the thing. Now, I could understand that because, you know, a lot of my previous ex-girlfriends have made that same mistake as well. When they've first had to come into my mother's house, they thought, you know, because let's be honest, people, when they're in the Western society too long, especially these women of today, these modern girls, Tony, they think that, you know, because, you know, women got rights now and everything, they feel that they can come into a West Indian parent's house and say, oh, hi, hiya. My mum was grab them by the neck. I say, who you hire to? You think to me is your friend? You know, listen, me no work for you, you know, you can't hire me. Yeah? About hire. My name is Mrs.
Right. No, so, I just find that strange. I mean, how would you know? You're just the queen. Everybody knows that you curtsy if you're a lady and you bow if you're a man. Now, how did you not realize that that was protocol for the queen? You know, yeah, Donaldson, I can understand not understanding how the royals work, as she is an American who fantasizes about the royal family. Yeah, but Donna, I mean, Americans know a lot more about the royal family than we do. They're royal watchers themselves.
Tony, Americans don't even know that there's black people in London.
Yeah, that's true, but she's a celebrity and she moves in big circles. They've heard of the Queen. The Queen has been around, what, 60 years, 70 years? You know, I just find it incredible she doesn't know what or she didn't realize what protocol is when meeting royalty, right? Yeah. that was quite strange to me, you know. And
go on, Tony. Sorry.
No, I was just saying the part that I found kind of sad, and I felt sorry for Harry listening to him, was the fact that how estranged he is from his family, like from his dad and from his brother, who he's obviously close to, and that must be quite difficult.
Well, yeah, I think it must be very difficult. However, I think that for me, the most telling thing in that whole moment is when he said that he felt sorry for his dad and his brother, and he had that little smile. If you watch it back again, I've never seen that smile on Harry's face, because he understands now that they are bound by that honor, which is above family, the duty honor, and he's free from it. And he's, before what happened was he thought that was going to be his journey. He didn't realize that he doesn't have to walk that path, and that, the titles mean nothing really and truly. So, and he's got his mum's money. His mum set him up nice. He doesn't need it. And he's finally realized that, you know what? I can be unhappy and be a member of the royal family and be bound to this duty and this honor, which is a load of nonsense, because you know what? My dad did it for so many decades, where his true love was Camilla, and he kept it a secret and kept it hidden and pretended that he had fallen in love with Princess Diana for this bound by duty nonsense. And he was an unhappy man, and he made his wife, Princess Diana, unhappy as well. Two of them were miserable because of it, because of this bound by duty nonsense. And Harry's realized, I don't have to live my life like this. So I'm gonna bun you, Dad, bun you, bruv. Do your bound by duty relationships and everything. And his dad's a hypocrite anyway, because his dad is already literally saying that he doesn't want to be king, and that's why he's with Camilla.
I can't help thinking though that this story reminds me of that Edward and Mrs. Simpson. You remember?
Oh yeah.
Edward abdicated the throne for a divorcee, and you kind of have a very similar story going on here.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, if this was Prince William, woo, it would be an absolute nightmare if this was Prince William. But because it's Prince Harry, it's kind of acceptable. The only thing is because he's broken protocol and he started talking to things. Otherwise, they would have been happy with him living in a black man's yard in America. Sorry, Tyler Perry's yard in America. To think, eh? Imagine saying,
yeah.
You get a knock on your door. You get a knock on your door. You open your door and you look and you see is a white man out there with a mixed race woman. And you say, "What, go on?" I say, "Boy, my mother kicked me out, you know. My grandmother kicked me out. And my daddy don't want me. Come inside. So who's your mother? Who's your grandmother? Oh, the Queen, the Queen of England." Can you imagine?
Yeah, but again, that suggests, let's just see that, financially they're not as buoyant or as healthy as we might think. And I believe that. I think what struck me was that they want to live this life, but they also want the title, right? Because the titles bring the prestige and it brings the money, and they can't have that because that lifestyle, it really calls for sacrifice. I mean, we all talk about, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be a king and a queen? No, it won't. You could never live your life because you're always living it for a public. I mean, if the Queen ever wrote a tell-all about her life as a queen, when you see those documentaries where it talks about my life in service, she's bound by a service and an oath that she has made, which means that her life is nothing but sacrifice. Obviously, there are some benefits, but as far as living a public life is concerned, she doesn't live like you and I.
Yeah. And
I think that Harry said that they felt trapped, right? So they trapped in that lifestyle, so they wanted to be free. Okay, but if you're free, you can't have the titles and you can't have no money, and you got to get on your own.
Yeah, I'm just going to go into some of the comments, Tony. Is it just me, or did anyone get the impression that this was also about an His Royal Highness title for Archie and protection for him? I think definitely that's a valid point. Adriana Evans says maybe she may have tried to stay open. Angela Koza says she was too busy filming Suits, no time to Google. Jackie Pearson says, remember her friend set her up and Harry on a blind date. Charmaine Bradshaw says that it was a whirlwind romance. She never did her due diligence and Harry never got the right people to school her. And Tegan Allison says, all depends on her take on the media and skeptical nature to depend on Google when she knows all too well, she knows she's been underrepresented. So why would she rely on it to get her details? Sharon Sprice says, yeah, he said they are trapped. Donna Ben says, again, black people to the rescue. Carolyn says they have more than enough money, more than they will ever have. So what if they have to shop in Aldi? And Phil says, which is, I think, a real great point. The big point for me, she says, is when Harry said he didn't want history repeating itself. That's quite a fueled statement. Very much so. Very, very much so.
Mr. C, we have a few minutes left before we actually touch into our history, but do you want to comment on that Piers Morgan situation that's taken place? I think there's just been some breaking news as well.
Well, yes, there definitely has been some breaking news. Let's deal with the breaking news first and foremost. There has been a statement from Buckingham Palace, I do believe. Have we got that little slide?
Oh, actually, no. That's
okay. No problem. So the palace has released a statement saying literally that they feel it's. I'm just trying to see if I can find it. Sorry, Buckingham Palace are saying that the allegations of racism made earlier this week by Prince Harry and Meghan were concerning and would be addressed privately by the royal family. So there you go. The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. That's the full statement. So yeah, only 61 words, short and sweet. Which is appreciative, because I know some of you, when you're telling stories, you love for palaver too long and start fabricate and I think he said this and she said no. This is what the family said. So we'll watch and see how that develops and whether the relationship between Meghan and Harry and the family or the firm draws closer, or whether they start to live even more further apart. We shall watch and see. I mean, but again, I think what was really clear was how he spoke about the relationship that he had with his grandmother, Her Majesty the Queen. It seemed like she was always being supportive. Meghan said that as well, that none of their things should really be seen as an attack on the Queen as such, because they've both said that she's been very supportive.
And finally, Mr. C, Piers Morgan leaves Good Morning Britain in row over Harry and Meghan comments. Your final thoughts on this matter?
Yes. So weatherman Alex Beresford was allegedly invited onto the panel because he is one of the only people of mixed race heritage in the GMTV squad. So Piers boldly says, well, I'm paraphrasing, that because he he felt that it would be a good addition to the program. So Piers allowed, not kind of allowed him, but, you know, requested for him to come on. So again, it's like, I'm a white male full of privilege, and I've given you this seat as an opportunity for you to say how you feel on my slot. So, you know, the day before, Piers was spieling out all of this hatred and this nonsense, what he feels for Meghan. And again, Alex Beresford kind of corrected him, told him that, you know, just because you and her were once friends and she don't talk to you no more, it's like, you know, since she don't talk to you, she hasn't said anything bad about you, nothing negative about you, nothing horrible about you, but yet you continuously spewed this nonsense about her, and pull him up and Pierce get up like, you know, them them Vex Pickney. You know, like when you say to your friend at school, oh, can I play football with you? And they say, yeah, come play football with me. And because you're playing better than them, and everybody else is having a good time, they pick up their ball and say, I'm going out now, and leave. But when everybody, anyway, there may be children watching. You fussy.
No, it was very childish. Bearing in mind that when he always scolds people, he wants them to sit there and listen to him. But he decides to be a big kid and stands up and says, I'm not listening to this. I'm not listening to this. So,
but I know what Piers is trying to get a knighthood from the Queen. That's what he's doing. He's trying to suck the reptilian tail of Prince Philip. That's what he's doing.
Charmaine Bradshaw says Alex might take over as regular presenter now.
Well, I think again, they're saying for the very first time there were complaints against Piers Morgan and his behaviour. So we shall see. I mean, will they get rid of Piers?
Well, he's gone now. He's actually left.
He's actually left, has he?
Yeah. Breaking news. He's left.
Ding dong, the witch is there. The witch is witch. The wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked. The witch is there.
Carolyn, I agree with your comment, but I can't repeat what you say.
Yeah. You see, Jah works in mysterious ways, man. Tony, as you said, my brother, you know, Jah is moving in a mightyful way. He once upon a time he used to fling stone after Philistine. What do they call them?
Yeah,
Samson killed the Philistines with a donkey jawbone.
Right.
Today it was Piers Morgan. So yeah, man.
And what a lovely segue that you should refer to Samson and history, because we've come to that time now. It's 8 o'clock Tuesday evening, and we're going to discuss more history. We're going to talk about. Well, let's see the first slide to remind you of what we're gonna do a review of last week's discussion, where we were talking about Mr. C. Can you remember what we were talking about?
Last week we was talking about. Oh gosh, we was talking about where the promised land was. I'm at the wrong bit, innit?
First slide, please. Let's remind everyone.
Can you go and drop me right in it, man?
Who were we talking about last week?
Black Moors. Yeah, the Moors.
Yeah, we were talking about the Moors. So the Moors are a very important part of this black historical narrative.
What happened to the Moors?
That was the question you asked. Yes. Let me just review as a reminder of what we talked about. Just to remind you, we asked the question, who are the Moors? What are their origins? So let's just find that out. Let's go to the next slide. And if you can read that, Mr. C, then we can sort of work out where we are. The highlighted part.
So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son he had born. So Abram, ladies and gentlemen, is Abraham. Very good.
So the nationality of Abraham, Mr. C, can you remember what his nationality was?
So Abraham was a Jew.
Right, very good.
Yeah. He was a Hebrew.
Hebrew's a technical, correct. And then Hagar, can you remember what nationality she was?
So Hagar was from Egypt.
Right. So you have a black Egyptian with a black Hebrew.
Yeah.
They create a son. The son's called Ishmael. Ishmael is the father of all the Arabs.
That's right.
So the original black Arabs are descendants of a mixture of Egyptians and Hebrews.
Yeah, and this is why the firm are upset, because they know if Meghan and Harry come together, then they make a special, you understand, a special blend.
Next slide. So this is their land, the land of the Ishmaelites, or the land of the Arabs, right? So you will recall we were talking last week about how in the Bible account, God leads the Israelites out of Egypt. And he tells Moses, when you lead them out of Egypt, bring them here to me. Now, it's interesting, out of all the places on earth that God has decided to have the Israelites brought to him, he actually was in Arabia.
That's right.
Because Mount Sinai is in Arabia. So already we are now starting to see the connection between Hebrew and Arab. And that becomes a very interesting connection when you consider over the succeeding centuries, the Arabian Peninsula had a very strong black Jewish presence. And so influential were those Jews that they actually converted, many of the Arabs were converted into their form of worship. Because the Arabs at that time were polytheists, so they worshipped many gods. And it wasn't really until the coming of Muhammad that was centralized into the worship of one God. And Muhammad had a lot of Jewish friends and acquaintances. In fact, his scribe that wrote down many of his sayings was a Jew. One of his wives was a Jew, and he had many Jewish friends. However, once he had found the faith, then he encouraged his fellow Arabs to stop worshiping multiple gods and to give praise to Allah. So that took some time because initially a lot of the Arabs were not convinced that this was the true faith. But he did manage to convince them. And then within, a very 20, 30-year period, the whole movement of Islam was able to spread across North Africa and turn and go off into the east, into what was known as Persia and what was the Persian Empire at the time. So let's look at the next slide. So in this slide, the green highlights the extent of the Islamic Empire up until the Middle Ages. So you're going to see the Arabian Peninsula in the middle, and then to the right it goes to Iraq, Iran, and as you go to the left, it goes across the north of Africa. That green bit over Africa is known as the Maghreb. Okay, that name is going to become very important as we go through this study. The Maghreb.
Maghreb.
Okay, so that takes you all the way from sort of Tunisia right across to Morocco to the tip of the Iberian Peninsula. Now, next slide. We're going to take a closer look at this area, and there's a reason why we need to look at this. Because as Islam was spreading, they converted many people along the way who were not Arabs, right? There were people that were living in the north of Africa in this Maghreb region that were not Arabs. They were black people, but they were not Arabs, right? So this area that you're looking at on the north of Africa is known as the Maghreb, and the people who live in this area are known as Berbers.
Okay.
Right? So the Europeans refer to them as Berbers, but their real name is the Amazigh people.
The Amazigh.
The Amazigh. But what was interesting about the people in Israel, there was a sizable Jewish population in this area, and many of them were converted into Islam.
Mm.
And conversion often meant changing your name, obviously learning the Quran, learning the Arabic script. So many of these individuals, many of these Jews who had converted, obviously passed down this newfound Islamic heritage to their children, who were also Muslims, right? Mm. In fact, what happened was, by the time that Spain was conquered in the year 711, the man who was responsible for leading those armies was himself a Berber Jew and not an Arab.
Okay.
Right? So there was a sizable number, when you're looking at that map, a sizable number of those who became known as Moors came out of this area that you're looking at the map. You had Arabs, but a sizable number of Moors came from this region, and some of them were actually converted Jews who then became had the Islamic faith. Okay, so let's look at the next slide, which is a quick video which surmises all that we've been discussing. Okay, so after bringing all of these technological advances to Spain, we know that eventually, by 1492, Islamic influence was driven out of Spain. And the remaining Moors, alongside the Jews, were forced on pain of death to change their religion to Catholicism. And so we asked last week, what happened to the Moors? So rather than answer the question, I'm going to show you this short video, and then we're going to see if we can make any sense of what happened to them. Next slide, please.
And Africa up until today has not recovered from this terrible genocide that went on. All tribes, all languages, all religions in West Africa were brought together and put onto the slave boats. Ashanti, Koromante, Yoruba, Igbo, Wolof. Amongst them were Muslims. Almost 1 in every 3 of the slaves being taken to America was Muslim.
So, Mr. C, what happened to some of those Moors who refused to change their religious beliefs?
They were sent as slaves. They became slaves.
So notice that their history became very much intertwined with those of the Jews. So this is a part of history that's really never spoken about. And I don't really know why nobody speaks about this, because we often, we often know the transatlantic as black people, people of African descent, African slaves. But nobody ever discusses this whole thing about the Moors of Spain. Now, many of them who were not taken as slaves, they did what the Jews did. Some of them fled into Europe. They fled to Turkey, where they lived peacefully under the Ottoman Empire, which was another Muslim empire. Some of them went into Europe, and some of them fled into Africa, where, just like the Jews, they were caught and taken on ships to America. So you have Hebrews and Muslims who often live side by side, taken on ships. Next slide. Now, if you're confused, don't be. Understand this, that Hebrew or Israelite is an ethnicity. Okay, so an ethnicity has to do with where you're from. What are your origins? Where are your people from? Muslim is a religion. It's a belief system. It does not designate where you are from or what your ethnicity is. So overall, we can't say where these Muslims were from, but we have some clues. And those clues arise when these Muslims arrive in America, as we shall see. Next slide. Now, just to go back quickly, remember this area here, this sort of yellowish tinge at the top of Africa is called the Maghreb. Okay, the people that lived there were known as Berbers or Amazigh people.
Yes, or just think of amazing barbers, ladies and gentlemen. When you get your hair cut, amazing barbers, it'll help you to remember them.
So many of these people, one, were Jews, two, were converted to Islam and had already been Islam for at least 5 centuries before they were taken away as slaves. Some of them, of course, ended up in Portugal, and they were driven out in 1492, went back into Africa, and were taken from there to the Americas. Next slide. Now, remember this term I said, Maghreb. Mr. C, can you just read this, please, about Maghrebi Jews?
Maghrebi Jews, or North African Jews. They are native Jews who had traditionally lived in the Maghreb region of North Africa. That's Arabic for the West, under Arab rule during the Middle Ages. Established Jewish communities had existed in North Africa long before the arrival of the Sephardi Jews expelled from Portugal.
Good, thank you. So, for a long time, large swathes of Jews were living in the Maghreb. Many of them were converted to Islam. Not all, but many of them. So, what happened when they got to the other side? So when they got to the Caribbean, when they got to the Americas? Well, let's look at a few characters here, and maybe we can get a clue as to their origins, where they originally came from, and what part they played in North American and Caribbean history. Let's look at the next slide. If we can expand that. Mr. C, would you read that, please?
Okay, yeah. Francois Macandal died in 1758, was a Haitian Maroon leader in Haiti. He is sometimes described as a Haitian voodoo priest or Hongan. For joining Maroons to kill slave owners in Saint-Domingue. He was captured and burned alive by French colonial authorities. Haitian historian Thomas Madou states that Macandai had instructions and possessed the Arabic language very well. Early sources identify him as coming from Mount Atlas, which spans the Maghreb, but contemporary scholars such as Sylvain Diouf have speculated that may have been from the modern-day nations of Senegal, Mali, or Guinea. During his interrogation, allegedly repeated the Shahada, testimony of Muslim faith, in Arabic several times, and even translated its meaning to his French captors during his interrogation before being condemned to death.
Thank you. So here we have a character, a freedom fighter, Francois Macandal, who clearly is a Muslim, understood Arabic, and was a devotee of the faith. Next slide. Let's look at Jamaica now. Okay, here's a blog, The Unsung Slaves, Islam in Plantation Jamaica, The African Connection. Let's have a look at what it has to say. Next slide.
Next slide, please, sir.
So I'll read that one quickly. So it says the African Islamic Connection. It says of the three Abrahamic religions, only Islam was the faith of the black African slaves brought to Jamaica and to the other West Indian islands. Well, that's an incorrect statement, because if you've been listening to this show, you know that the Hebrew faith is the black faith. And as I'm going to teach you in a few weeks' time, the Catholic religion was started by a black man. So that's an incorrect statement. But let's not pull strings on that. So the black African slaves brought to Jamaica to the other West from West and Central Africa. Islam thus first appeared in Jamaica, not with the help of the so-called Islamic sword, but with Muslim slaves who were brought in chains by the European Christians. Okay, so you had devotees of Islam in Jamaica. Right? Now remember, Islam is not an ethnicity. It's a religion. It's a belief system. Okay? So we actually can't say from reading that where these individuals are from. What we do know is prior to many of them being taken as slaves, many of them were Jews that were converted into Islam. At least 300, 400 years before slavery even started out of Portugal. But let's continue. Next slide. So here's another website we can look at, Collections and Stories of American Muslims. Next slide. Mr. C, could you read that for us, please?
Yeah, in 1753, two more Muslims from As-Sali, Morocco, appeared in South Carolina's records. Adel Konda and Mamut petitioned the local government in South Carolina in Arabic for their freedom and won. Their story states that in 1736, they were in a battle with the Portuguese, lost and were captured. They had agreed to come here and work as indentured servants for 5 years for Captain Henry Durbrib. They were later transferred to Daniel LaRoche, who enslaved them for another 10 years until in 1753, when they petitioned the authorities about their case.
Thank you. So here we have black Muslims on American soil. These were the ones who were taken to the Americas. Now, it's interesting that they were appealing for their freedom. Well, we've never heard of that before. Since when are black people who are taken as slaves allowed to appeal for their freedom? We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. Next slide.
Clues in the indentured slaves. So.
Right. Can you read that for Mr. C?
Mm-hmm. In the late 1770s, Salim the Algerian was a Muslim from a royal family of Algiers. He was captured by Spaniards into slavery to the French in New Orleans. He eventually got his freedom after running away from slavery. He had lived a while among the Native American Indian tribes and settled in Virginia. Salim eventually met Thomas Jefferson, attended the first Congressional Continental Congress, and died an insane man after having given up his family and religion for America.
Right, so this is another story again. So there are many stories like this concerning Muslims who were in America who were taken as slaves and then often found themselves in situations where they were actually fighting for their freedom. And we'll talk about that in a few seconds. Now, in this next slide, if we just go to it, we're now going to start to see ethnicity being brought into the whole equation. So where are some of these people from? Mr. C, would you read that for us, please?
In 1786, two men appeared in Charleston dressed in the Moorish habit, in which aroused a great deal of suspicion by their strange ways. An officer of the law tried to question them, found out they were Moors and did not speak English. According to Charles Renzikoff's book, The Jews of Charleston, concluded after some time had passed, they determined that the two men were of the Jewish nation. They took the two men to the home of a woman on East Bay Street who understood their language. She found out that they had sailed from Algeria to Virginia, where they had been arrested on suspicion of being Algerians. They then traveled overland to South Carolina. The woman's name was Mrs. Starr Barrett, a Jewish woman who was born in the Barbary States.
Thank you. So look at that story. So two men wearing Moorish clothes were stopped and asked about where they're from. So they're Moorish, and it turns out that they're what? Members of the Jewish nation. So these two men are taken to a woman who is able to translate the language because she speaks the language. And she herself is a Jewish woman who was born in the Barbary States. Now, the Barbary States is the Maghreb. Do you remember, Mr. C? We talked about the Maghreb being that northern part of Africa where many of those individuals...
The Barbers, yeah.
Amazing Barbers, right? The Amazigh people, many of who were Jews. This lady, Mrs. Starr Barrett, was one of those individuals. But this took place in America.
Imagine that in 1786, they're still doing stop and search on black man still.
Right. Right. Now, it's quite interesting. And here I'm talking about, we have been taught without a doubt that black people were enslaved, right, in the Americas. I'm going to tell you this. That's not a true statement. The true statement is some black people were enslaved. And some black people were not enslaved. Next slide. Please read that, Mr. C.
Free Negro. In United States history, a free Negro or free black was the legal status in the geographic area of the United States of African Americans who were not slaves. It included both freed slaves, freedmen, and those who had been born free, free people of color.
Wow. Wow. So you mean you had black people walking around in the United States of America during the time of slavery, but they were not slaves. They were actually free people. Next slide. If you could just read under background, please, Mr. C.
Slavery was legal and practiced in every European colony in North America at various points in history. Not all Africans who came to America were slaves. A few came in even in the 17th century as free men, as sailors working on ships. In the early colonial years, some Africans came as indentured servants. I'll say that one more time, as indentured servants who were freed after a set period of years, and as did many of the immigrants from Europe.
Thank you. So, many, many moons ago when we first started talking about black history, you will recall we talked about the Irish and the Scottish who were put on ships and sent to the Americas. Mr. C, do you recall? Remember that we had that conversation
100%.
A long while ago. So these are the immigrants they're talking about in this article from Europe that ended up in the Americas. But imagine that. You had people out of the African continent who made their way to the States, not as slaves, but as free men, and sometimes as indentured servants. So you had a situation where you had those who were enslaved, working the plantations, and you actually had black people who were free, walking around, living their life. Now, we were told that virtually all black people that were in America, that they were enslaved. But that actually is not true. Do you know that there are actually a lot of families and it could, and some of your families could be that in this bracket, that were never enslaved, that actually ended up in America or in the Caribbean, basically off their own back, without ever having tasted it.
Well, Antonio, we might have to cut this bit out, cause until I get my reparations, nobody can know that bit. That's it. You know, I look a couple million and just that one there. Till it secure the bag.
Till it secure the bag.
But yeah, most definitely. And I think, Tony, as you're saying about this, the whole indentured servants, it's a very good point, because we know that's how the Chinese and the Indians came to Jamaica and various parts of the Caribbean as indentured servants. They weren't slaves as such. So yes, very much so. There was black indentured servants and free men and women in America as well. Very, very good point, man. Very, very good point.
I mean, this actually changes the narrative somewhat as far as the national psyche is concerned, with regard to how we see ourselves as a nation, right? Often what we call slave mentality, right? But the reality is that there were lots of free black people around the time.
Thank you, Lynn. Lynn says Irish people as well.
Yes,
definitely. Lynn. A lot of Irish in where was it? Montserrat and even Barbados.
Yeah, Montserrat, Jamaica, Barbados. Yeah. So here we have a sort of narrative now that we have sort of two strands. We have, or three strands. We have those taken on ships, enslaved, put on the plantations, those who went willingly as indentured laborers and sold themselves for a number of years, and then those who went as free men.
I mean, even the whole 12 years a slave, really, when you think about it, before the guy was captured in North America, that he was a free man. He was a free black man. He had his family. He was living his life. And some scallywags or vagrants or did some Banzulu business, and next thing you know, he was in the deep south.
Right. Now, a few items ago, which you read about a Muslim man who was basically re-enslaved, right? Mm-hmm. And then he had to appeal for his freedom.
Yes.
So he was a free Negro. You see? And so you could actually take your quote unquote slave master to court, right? If you fell under the bracket of a free Negro. There were laws for those who were specifically enslaved, but a free Negro had a different set of laws that they could appeal because this was all, as brutal as the slave trade was, it was orderly. Dare I say it, right? It was orderly. There was a way, you had magistrates and courts that where you could appeal against your enslavement if you felt it was wrong based upon whatever act existed at the time.
Yeah, because it was lawful. Slavery was lawful, and it was bound by the laws of the land.
Right. So that's the point to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that there was chattel slavery, but there were also free Negroes and those who were indentured, who willingly gave themselves for a period of time to work, and then basically after that they would go on their way. So let's look at the next slide now, and we want to talk about a particular place in the USA, which is known as Charleston. You might have heard about this place. This is in the South Carolina. If we can expand it a little bit so our viewers can see it, I'm gonna read it because I want to emphasize a couple of points. So it's talking about the city of Charleston. It says established by English settlers on the banks of the Ashley River in 1670, Charlestown became the capital of the Carolina colony and the bustling trading hub for the colony staple crop. Charlestown also benefited as the closest major port to the colonial West Indies. The first record, now listen to this, Mr. C, the first record of a Jew living in Charlestown comes from 1695 when an official who worked for the colonial governor, so this is official, he's a Jew, he worked as a Spanish translator and he was identified as being Jewish. So notice, so he's a connection. He's Jewish, but he works as a Spanish translator. That means he knew Spanish. So we'll come to what's the significance of that? Next slide. Let's have a look. So talking about Charleston again, right? Same group of people. It says in 1764, the congregation, this is now Jewish people who settled in there. So these now, remember previously we talked about there were Jews that were taken on ships, enslaved. These are now free Jews. In 1764, the congregation bought land for a Jewish cemetery, although about half of the founders were what? Notice, Mr. C, Sephardic.
Mm-hmm.
They were Sephardic in origin. What do we know about the Sephardic Jews? They were persecuted for not changing their faith. Many of them managed to leave before ships could ever arrive to take them away. Some of these Jews ended up right here in London. We'll talk about that at a later date. So these were Sephardic Jews, free Jews that lived. So you imagine having your brethren working the plantations and you were free. Next slide. Now, what's really, why this is so interesting, it's not as clear cut. This whole slavery story is not as clear cut as we've been told. It's not black or white. It's just a really complicated story. Because interestingly, while some Muslims were taken on ships to the Americas, in the north of Africa and to the east, there was a slave trade conducted by the Muslims. Incredible, right? So they were already conducting a slave trade, obviously at least 1,000 years before the Europeans got into the business. So you had black Muslims on one side working in the business of enslaving and making good money out of it. On the other side, you had those running out of Spain into Africa and then being taken on ships to the Americas. You see, this is not a straightforward story, because you'd think, well, how would Arabs be allowed to be, or rather Muslims be allowed to be taken away on ships and slaves, but yet Muslims were engaging in the slave trade a long time before the Europeans. And make no mistake, the black Muslims were heavily involved in slavery. This is part of the history that doesn't want to be discussed. People don't want to talk about it because there seems to be some type of, dare I say, conspiracy to lay all the blame on Europeans or white people, effectively, right? And there's a silence when it comes to, or a near silence when it comes to the Muslim participation, the black Muslim participation in slavery, which is very, very heavy. And in fact, did you know that one of the last countries to ban slavery was Saudi Arabia, which only banned slavery in 1960? And I believe Mauritania is the last Muslim country to ban, and that was in the 90s. And even today, if you've been watching the news in the last couple of years, you couldn't help but see black people being sold in Libya and various other those North African countries as slaves. So when we're talking about the enslavement of black, we have to look at all sides who have been involved in this heinous trade. And in this slide here, you're looking at one of the most notorious slavers. Can we just expand that a little bit, please? This man here, who's known as Tipu Tip, and he was particularly a brutal individual when it came to the treatment of slaves and those that were enslaved. So, what are we talking about here? What's this? What is this really all about? The point being here is, look, the Jews and the Arabs have a very close intertwined history. Many of those Jews who lived in the Maghreb, many of them were converted into the Islamic faith. 400 years later, many of them were taken into slavery with an Islamic faith. Now we know that the Jews were also taken into slavery, and they had their own faith. We don't know for sure at this point what the origins of some of the other people might have been. So what I want to encourage some of you to do, you've been on that site, Slave, what's it again? I'm forgetting one.
Voyage, something slave.
Slave Voyages. Thank you very much. Slave Voyages. For those of you who've been there, maybe a little homework for you would be to go to that site and type in some Arabic names. So try something like Mohammed, Omar, Abdul, Tariq, and see what manifests come up for your homework. So you had Jews taken away, you had Muslims taken away. You had free Jews that ended up in the Americas, you had free Muslims that ended up in the Americas. You had the Free Negro Act, which clearly allowed for people to walk freely and not to be enslaved, and if they were, they could appeal based upon the act. And so it wasn't just a cut and dry, all blacks were enslaved story. And there was this sort of intermingling between some of these Muslims were taken as slaves, but at the same time, the Muslims were engaging in slavery. And as we go on, I'm going to show you how more confusing this gets. Because some of the way this was all done, you're just not going to believe it. So we're going to leave it here for today. Hope you picked up something from it. Don't forget, Mr. C said, amazing barbers. All right, so that these are the Berbers, who are the Amazigh people. Mm-hmm. And history is not everything you believed it to be.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, Tony, man. You know, again, it just makes you realize just how little of the truth we've really been told about our history, who we are, and who who we really. Geez, it's mind-boggling, man. It's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. It's yeah. Have to look at the world from different eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Can we give Tony, first of all, a round of applause, man? You know, you can use your hand emojis or whatever you want. But Tony, thank you again, dropping some absolute golden bits of nuggets for us. Please, 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 ladies and gentlemen, it's so important that we share this knowledge with our, especially our young ones, and also the older generation as well. We've still got the elders around when you go to visit them, and you know they've got their new widescreen TV now. Hook up the YouTube and show them this, so that they too can understand. And you'll hear some of the little backstories come up. Oh yes, because you know your grandmother was Portuguese, you know, but she was Portuguese block, you know. But yeah, that makes sense now. And yeah, there's a rumor that a cousin of ours was Jewish, but you know, we think say it was just a little bit funny because you know the doctor snip off the wrong part. But anyway, you know, enough about it. So you'll find these little stories will come out, ladies and gentlemen, and then they will all start to click into place. And you're you know, as Tony says, quite rightly so, not all of us are descendants of slaves. I've believed that about myself for a long time. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to knock on the Queen's door and say, well, you know, Harry's gone, me here now. Yeah. You don't need to worry about the color of my baby, mate. It's coming out only one color. Oh, dear. So look, ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, subscribe, and to share. Most importantly, please, please, please remember to reach out to either myself, Tony Crossbody, or MediaNet Live TV if you want that chance and that opportunity to, on Tuesday, the 30th of March, to be the host of What a Week. Me and Tony giving you a fabulous opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you may want to bring a little bit of Black history studies. It might be something that you found out, which may be interesting for our viewers, or you might just want to pick on a particular type of subject. Whatever that's going to be, the choice is yours. Tony has spoken. I've totally given the backing, and we don't even need to discuss this with management, because we know that their vision is our vision, and our vision, ladies and gentlemen, is your vision. Me and Tony have not finished for this evening. However, Tony, please tell them what's going to happen at 10 p.m. this evening.
So 10 p.m. till 12, there's a show called After Dark, which both me and Mr. Sia will be appearing on. If you have the stomach for it, we will be discussing the complications of relationships, and we'll all be putting our 2 cents worth in. So if you're interested in that, then please join us, share your views. That's 10 to 12, the After Dark show. Me and Mr. C as guests.
Right here on MediaNet Live, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, that was man and woman, those signs, just in case anybody thought I was throwing up gang signs. No, it wasn't gang signs, man and woman. So we shall be discussing that. And ladies and gentlemen, me and Tony will not be doing a Piers Morgan. When the conversation gets difficult or challenging, we shall not run, we shall not flee like some of you men. When there's conversations in the kitchen at parties and certain subjects come up, you like grab your beer and you run, go back into the dance like Piers Morgan. Me and Tony will defend our corner and our conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We do hope that you can join us. If not, you can catch it up later on YouTube. But in the meantime, it's good night from myself. Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share. And also, Tony, final words?
Well, you know, to find out the future, we always have to go back to the past. And that's where the answers are to all your problems in life, including the national, whether it's a personal problem or a national problem. The answer is in the history. There
you go. So thank you each and all for your contributions and your valid comments this evening. We'll catch you next week with What a Week. Until then, take care. God bless. Catch you Tuesday night at 7 p.m.